Daniel Reed hadn't stepped into a room this polished, this glittering, this suffocating with wealth and authority in years, not since he left the military. The chandeliers above the grand ballroom cast a warm, golden glow across uniforms decorated with medals, dresses shimmering with diamonds, and faces practiced in power. Every inch of the place screamed exclusivity. Which was why the moment Daniel walked through the tall glass doors, the air shifted. Conversations paused. Glasses hovered mid-air. People glanced at his scuffed boots, his faded jacket, his tired eyes that had seen too much and slept too little. They whispered. He didn't belong, and they all knew it. But Daniel held the wrinkled envelope tighter in his hand. He wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here because someone with enough reach to get him inside this invitation-only event, had sent him a message promising answers about the night his wife, Emma, died in a classified military operation. He had tried to forget that night. Tried to live quietly for their daughter, Lily. Tried to bury the questions. But the truth had a way of clawing back to the surface, refusing to stay hidden. And now the source of that truth was somewhere in this room. "Sir!" A deep voice thundered. Two security guards in black suits approached quickly. The taller one stepped in front of him, palm raised. "This event is for military personnel and registered guests only. You need to leave immediately." Daniel tried to keep calm. "I was invited." "You don't look invited." The guard reached for his arm. Daniel stepped back, trying not to escalate, but guests were already staring, amused or irritated, as if watching an unwelcome spectacle. Some smirked. Some rolled their eyes. "See? This is why they secure entrances," one woman muttered. "He's probably here for free food." Daniel clenched his jaw. He didn't care what they thought of him. But he cared about the truth. "I have a right to be here," he said evenly. "Someone brought me here. Someone who knows about Operation Sentinel." A hush spread. A few officers stiffened at the mention of the classified mission. But the guards only tightened their grip. "Stop resisting," the guard barked, physically turning Daniel toward the exit. "You're making a scene." "Let go," Daniel warned. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to speak to." "Enough," the guard snapped. "Move." Daniel's muscles tensed. He didn't want to fight, but they were forcing it. His breath grew short as the humiliation burned deeper. People were watching him like he was trash. Like he was a criminal. Like he wasn't the man who had once bled beside their fathers, their brothers, their commanders. And as the guards dragged him toward the doors, Daniel felt the panic, the old memories, the betrayal simmering inside him. Then, a sharp, commanding voice cut through the tension. "Let him go." The entire ballroom froze. Heads turned. A staircase spiraled down from the second floor, and descending it was a young woman in a navy blue gown, her dark hair pinned back, her posture straight with the unmistakable bearing of someone raised in military discipline. Even before people recognized her, they adjusted their stance subconsciously. She carried presence. Authority. Respect. Avery Grant, the only daughter of General Marcus Grant, one of the most decorated, feared, and revered figures in the armed forces. If a star were born from steel and precision, that would be Avery. The guards released Daniel instantly, stepping back as if burned. Avery's heels clicked sharply against the polished floor as she approached him. Her eyes were fierce, too fierce for someone who normally stayed out of public attention. "Do you know who this man is?" she demanded. The guards exchanged confused glances. "Ma'am, he's not on the guest list, that's not what I asked." Her voice sliced the air. "Do you know who he is?" Silence swallowed the hall. Daniel blinked, stunned. He had never met her before. How did she know him? Avery stepped beside him, turning toward the crowd as if delivering a verdict. "This man," she said loudly, "is Sergeant Daniel Reed. The soldier who saved my father's life in Fallujah." Gasps erupted. A few officers straightened instinctively. The guards visibly paled. But she didn't stop. And he is also the man the military failed, when they let his wife die during Operation Sentinel. The whispers turned into stunned silence. Daniel's heart hammered. She knew about Emma. She knew everything. Avery turned to him again, her expression softening into something almost protective. "You don't walk out," she whispered. "Not tonight. Tonight, you get the truth you've been denied for years." She extended a hand, an unspoken promise. And for the first time in a very long time, Daniel allowed someone to stand beside him. Part 2. Avery led Daniel through the hall, ignoring the stunned glances and whispered questions that trailed behind them like shadows. People parted for her, not out of courtesy, but because they knew better than to interfere with General Grant's daughter when she wore that look. She pushed open a side door leading to a private briefing room reserved for high-ranking officials. Inside, men with medals gleaming on their chests stood around a long mahogany table. Maps, files, and sealed envelopes were spread across its surface. At the head of the table stood General Marcus Grant himself. A man carved from duty, discipline, and decades of battle. His cold eyes softened with shock when he saw Daniel. "Reed," the general breathed. "Is it really?" "It's him," Avery confirmed, stepping forward. "And he deserves answers." The general's shoulders dropped, not in weakness, but in something that looked painfully close to regret. "I thought you disappeared," he said quietly. "After the funeral, after the reports were sealed, I didn't disappear," Daniel replied, voice bitter. "I was pushed out. Left with a daughter to raise and no truth about how her mother died." The general swallowed hard. Avery moved closer, folding her arms, a silent reminder that she wasn't backing down. "Dad," she said firmly. "No more half-truths. No more hiding. Tell him." The room grew so quiet Daniel could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, with a sigh that seemed to strip years off his shoulders, General Grant reached into a locked drawer and retrieved a thick, sealed folder marked Classified, Sentinel. He placed it on the table. "The night of Operation Sentinel," the general began, "your wife wasn't scheduled for deployment. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the extraction zone." Daniel's breath hitched. He had always sensed something off. Always felt the guilt of not knowing. Then why was she there? "Because she volunteered to extract civilians trapped in crossfire," the general said, voice weighted with both pride and sorrow. "She saved 12 people before the chaos escalated. She radioed for backup, for you, because you were the closest unit." Daniel's throat tightened. He remembered the static on the radio. The sudden blackout. The screams. Avery stepped closer to him, as if grounding him. "But the backup never came," he whispered. "Why?" The general closed his eyes briefly. "Because Colonel Harlow issued a retreat order." He panicked. He thought the risk was too high and ignored Emma's call. Daniel froze. He ignored her. Then destroyed the communications logs. Daniel felt the floor tilt beneath him. Years of grief hardened into something sharp and unbearable. Avery spoke, her voice laced with anger. "We found digital traces." He wiped the logs after the mission. He covered his mistake, and when Emma died, he let the blame fall on her unit. Daniel's hands curled into fists. "He let my daughter grow up without her mother. He let me believe she died because of bad luck. Not because of him." Avery placed a gentle hand on his arm. "That's why I sent you the invitation," she said softly. "I found the truth. And I wasn't going to let her story die with the lies." As if on cue, the door opened. Colonel Harlow walked in, adjusting his uniform with an air of smug self-assurance. He froze when he saw Daniel. "What is he doing here?" Harlow demanded. Daniel stepped forward. "Remember me?" Harlow's jaw clenched. "Sergeant Reed." I'm sorry for your loss, stop." Avery's voice cracked like a whip. We know